The battle that shaped history. Secrets of ancient warfare. The echo of war. War has always been the crucible in which civilizations are forged and broken. From the thunder of chariots on open plains to the silent plotting of generals in shadowed chambers, battles have determined the fate of kings and empires. Today, we journey back through time, to a war that reshaped the ancient world. This is not just a story of armies clashing, it is a story of strategy, courage, betrayal, and the inexorable force of history itself. Imagine the dust rising from a battlefield, the clang of swords, the thunder of hooves, and the roar of soldiers. Every decision, every maneuver, could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. And at the center of it all were the people, leaders, soldiers, and ordinary citizens, whose lives would never be the same again. The seeds of conflict. Every war begins not on the battlefield but in the minds of men. The causes are often complex: a fragile alliance, a disputed border, hunger for resources, or the ambition of a single ruler. In the ancient world, where empires rose and fell like the tides, even the smallest spark could ignite a conflagration. Our story begins in an age when kingdoms sprawled across continents, their rulers seeking glory, wealth, and immortality in the annals of history. Trade routes rich with spices, gold, and precious stones were the lifeblood of empires, but they also drew envy and greed. Rival kings watched each other closely, waiting for a weakness, a misstep, or a betrayal. In this era, war was not only a tool of conquest but a theater of strategy and cunning. Leaders understood that victory was often determined before the first arrow was loosed, through diplomacy, espionage, and cunning maneuvers behind the scenes. And so, as tension simmered, the stage was set for a war that would leave an indelible mark on history. The armies assembled with a sense of inevitability. Soldiers from distant lands, clad in armor that reflected the sun, marched across valleys, rivers, and mountains. The air was thick with anticipation and the acrid scent of leather, sweat, and metal. Generals, wise and battle-hardened, scrutinized the terrain. Hills could provide a defensive advantage, rivers a deadly trap, and forests the perfect cover for ambushes. Every footstep mattered. Every campfire could reveal secrets to a vigilant enemy. In the days leading up to the confrontation, spies and scouts roamed the lands. Messages were sent in secret, alliances tested, and contingencies planned. It was as much a war of intelligence as it was of strength. The leaders understood that a single mistake, a misjudged march, a betrayed ally, or a misfired signal, could doom thousands. As the armies drew closer, morale became a weapon. Soldiers whispered stories of their commanders' past victories. Songs were sung to honor fallen heroes and inspire courage. In this delicate balance of fear and hope, the stage was finally set for the clash that would echo through history. The clash of titans. And then it happened. The battlefield erupted in chaos. The clash of swords, the crack of whips on horseflesh, and the scream of the wounded filled the air. Chariots thundered forward, scattering infantry in their path. Archers loosed volleys of arrows that blotted out the sun. The generals, positioned on high ground, directed the flow of battle like conductors of a deadly symphony. Infantry formed phalanxes and shield walls. Cavalry swept around flanks in devastating maneuvers. Siege engines hurled stones and fire over fortifications. Each movement was precise, calculated, and lethal. In the heat of battle, heroism and cowardice were exposed. One brave commander led a small detachment to flank the enemy, turning the tide at a critical moment. Another, blinded by ambition, ignored advice and walked into a deadly trap. The human element, the courage, fear, and desperation, was as decisive as strategy or numbers. As the day wore on, the battlefield became a tapestry of violence and valor. The ground was churned to mud, rivers ran red, and the cries of the dying echoed across valleys. And yet, in the midst of carnage, strategy remained king. The general who could anticipate the enemy, adapt to chaos, and seize opportunity would emerge victorious. Turning points and betrayals. Every epic battle has its turning point, a moment where fate intervenes. Perhaps it is a sudden rainstorm that bogs down the enemy's cavalry, or a hidden force striking from an unexpected direction. Sometimes, it is betrayal. Allies switching sides, mercenaries abandoning their posts, or a command misunderstood can alter the course of history. In our story, the tide of war shifted when a small contingent of elite soldiers executed a daring maneuver behind enemy lines. Their stealth and precision sowed confusion and panic. The enemy, caught off guard, faltered. But the war was far from over. Each side adapted, countered, and recalculated. Generals met in secret councils, sending urgent messengers across the battlefield. Decisions made in mere moments, whether to advance, retreat, or hold, decided the lives of thousands. It was not only weapons that determined victory but the minds and hearts of men. Loyalty, fear, and cunning played as large a role as swords, spears, and chariots. History remembers not just the battles but the human drama that defined them. The aftermath. When the dust settled, the battlefield was transformed. Fields once fertile were now scarred with trenches and rubble. Cities burned, borders shifted, and empires rose or fell. Families mourned, soldiers returned, or did not, and the survivors carried the memories of horrors and heroics alike. The war reshaped politics, economics, and culture. Alliances formed and dissolved, new powers emerged, and old kingdoms vanished. Knowledge, technology, and military tactics spread from one empire to another, forever changing the art of war. But even amid devastation, life endured. Villages were rebuilt, trade resumed, and stories of valor were passed down through generations. In a way, the echoes of this war continued to shape the world long after the last sword was sheathed. Lessons from ancient warfare. History teaches us that war is more than a series of battles. It is a reflection of human ambition, fear, and ingenuity. Strategy and planning, intelligence and espionage, courage and resilience, these are timeless elements that shaped the past and continue to influence the present. We see that no victory is permanent, and no empire invincible. Every clash of armies carries lessons for leaders, historians, and ordinary people alike. Understanding the forces that shaped history allows us to appreciate the fragility and strength of civilizations. Ancient warfare reminds us that history is alive, echoing in the decisions we make and the stories we tell. The past is never truly gone. It whispers to us through ruins, artifacts, and stories of battles long fought. Today, we have walked the fields of history, witnessed the strategies, heroics, and tragedies of war. If you enjoyed this journey into the echoes of the past, subscribe to Ancient Echoes, where every story uncovers a hidden truth and every episode brings history to life. Remember, the past shapes the future, and the lessons of war remain as relevant now as they were thousands of years ago.